Gambia's Minister of Defense has begun the formulation of the maiden defense policy in a security sector reform process. Gambians have petitioned the U.S. Embassy in Banjul over the killing of their citizens in the United States. North Korea has suspended all communication channels with South Korea, including the leaders. This and more coming on The World Today. Hello, this is Africa TV and you're watching the World Today News Bulletin. I am Amadou Kante. Many thanks for joining us, and now the news in detail. Now, the Ministry of Defense on Tuesday presided over a security stakeholders meeting meant to develop the maiden defense policy document for the Gambia. The document is expected to boost the government's efforts in its security sector reforms agenda. Details of that in this report. Ministry of Defense on Tuesday hosted a stakeholder security conference aimed at developing the first ever defense policy document in the Gambia. Stakeholders from the Ministry of Defense and the Army are expected to deliberate on critical issues relating to the importance of reforms in the security sector. Speaking during the opening ceremony in Kotu, Minister of Defense Sheikh Omar Faye reiterated his ministry's desire to provide support and guidance in formulation of a defense strategies.
This is the duty of any Ministry of Defense to develop a defense policy, and from there on, I'm sure all institutions will deduct from it and also get things moving. We all know that the reforms are well talked about, they're very popular. I think since the invent of the new republic, the security sector reform has been a very, very popular subject. And we want to reassure all Gambians and our friends that yes, we are on course and we are putting up the structures and strategies in place.
Chief of Defense Staff of the Gambia Armed Forces, Major General Yakuba Drame, said that the doors of the Gambia Army are open to innovation and proposals that could help in elevating standards in their job. In September 2017, the Barrow-led administration launched the reform project to cure a deeply politicized system which has not been responsive to the needs of the people. However, the process to ensure effective and accountable security under democratic control has been criticized for taking a very low motion. Major General Drame responded that efforts in the transformation of the army, like in any human endeavor, goes in a process.
When we embrace the new administration within the country, which as an institution, we've been undertaking a lot of reform processes. Some of the processes, they are not visible, but we've done all we could to give that projections and to give the clear thinking and focus of officers and men of the armed forces. It's a continuous process. And remember, reform in any human endeavor is a process. And usually, it cannot be a definitive timeline.
In November 2019 issue of the bi-monthly newsletter of the Office of the National Security, Mamadou Badji, the National Security Advisor, stated that the most difficult reforms are often those that relate to behavioral and attitudinal change. There has been absence of local ownership of the SSR, largely due to the capacity gaps on the parts of the local actors, according to the 2018 assessment report. Badji pointed out that the lack of capacity is exactly the problem that SSR is meant to address, without which the SSR is bound to fail. Reporting for Africa News, I am Amadou Kante. And from the report there, next we report on matters of the ongoing hearings of the TRC, because the Truth, Reconciliation and Reparation Commission hosted the Director of Gambia Prison Services on the conditions of the country's central prison from 1994 to 2017, pointing out human-induced deaths. Ansumana Mane revealed that treatment of the prisoners was understandably by orders generated by the then system in place. He said many inmates went through health crisis and died of access of medical attention, leading to some deaths. Here's more details of that in this report.
A receptionist at the Mile 2 Central Prison testified on Tuesday that the condition of prison cells became harsh and inhumane following the July 22nd military took over, which ushered in the government of former President Yahya Jammeh until January 2017. Similar to the account of the Director General of Prison Service, who appeared before the Truth, Reconciliation and Reparation Commission a day before, Lamin Korjan noted the prisons were assigned new roles to punishment of inmates and not for rehabilitation.
Interference outside interference
There was outside interference.
all the time.
From where to where?
From 94 to 2017.
From 94 to 2017.
Outside interference coming from who?
Munta bantala kolu kabonam bantala. Wo kabonam jumale bulu pour kabul executive order.
Yes. They used to call it the executive order.
Yes.
And which executive are we talking about?
Executive order. Kaso kono kai kai. Executive order is from State House.
Each time executive order is mentioned is from the State House.
From who in particular in State House?
Kabo jumale bulu State House. The head of state. Niko executive order kai is the head.
Head of state. Each time you hear executive order is the head of state.
And which individual are we referring to?
Mo kunjumale mame yalon kolem head of state. Ono the post ya Jammeh.
He alleged that the former president had in many occasions warned the public to be mindful of one-time director of Gambia Prison Service. Former director was a legal servant of the president.
That is to say that he empowered David.
Ni president ke public gathering.
If a president should stand in a public gathering and says that if people are not careful,
a five-star hotel.
they will go to his five-star hotel because he has a good manager there. That shows to people that he is the CEO of the prison, the executive of the prison.
David general manager.
And David is the general manager.
So all interpretation on you.
That is the interpretation.
But what other information is he conveying by labeling the prison a five-star hotel?
So kibar juma dole fana bije mo si men jeno pro dalilo men ako kasomu ala five-star hotel leti.
Because mine were caring.
What existed was
a big man outside.
You are a big man outside.
Or a politician
or you are a politician.
Or in public figure
or a public figure.
Ajako any lawyer conflict lesoto.
And he realizes that you have a conflict with the law. You'll ask them to bring you there. When you come there, he will not want you to have any of your rights respected.
State House another Mile 2.
But because he will not come from State House to come to Mile 2.
The general manager
the general manager, his general manager that is there, whatever situation he wants you to be put under, he will narrate it, relate that to him, and he will interpret that instruction to the officers.
According to his narration, all prisoners had to be taken for administration by the right authorities with all required documents to justify the reason of their detention before the bat of Jammeh's administration. The main reason of admitting a prisoner into the cells, he said, was based on remand or victim warrant at the time, but there appeared a shift in the procedure hereafter.
After 1994,
After 1994, at the time that I returned, I found another column called the detained column. They bring people there, and they came without any document. The reason for their coming there, nobody usually knows. All they say is that he is from the NIA or an executive.
Mr. Carter testified that the only thing prisoners offered could do was to comply with the detectives under the former administration with or without legal justifications. Reporting for iAfrican News, I am Aissatou Tamba.
And from the report there by Aissatou Tamba, we stay home because Gambians have called on the United States to reform policy matters in the U.S. and to orient law enforcement officers towards nonviolent policing and human rights. This came in the wake of recent deaths of two black men, one of who is a Gambian allegedly in the hands of police in the United States. Activists in the Gambia had threatened to hold a protest before the U.S. Embassy last week, but date was rescheduled to further notice. Details of that in this report.
Gambians have petitioned the United States government urging them to end racism and police brutality by conducting thorough investigations of all incidents of police brutality against blacks in the United States and ensure full justice and accountability. This came in the wake of the racially motivated murder of George Floyd and Momodou Lamine Cissé, son of a former UN employee and Gambian diplomat, in Atlanta by US police officers in May. The concerned Gambians considered in the petition the death of Momodou as a gross violation of his human rights in which the police employed excessive force and violence. They further call on the government of the United States to take all necessary steps to release the police videos on the shooting of Momodou Lamine Cissé and to conduct constitutional, legal and institutional reforms to weed out and end structural racism by criminalizing it. The group considered the impunity as unacceptable and a gross violation of the civil rights of African Americans in total contravention of the Constitution. The Georgia Bureau of Investigations, GBI, had said that police opened fire on Cissé after a car chase that ended up with him firing a handgun at the officers. However, the deceased family and friends rejected the version offered by the U.S. authority and called for eyewitnesses to come forward. Human rights activist and family friend Banka Mane in a Facebook post said it was yet other police killing of a black man and another police report blaming the victim while facts were out somewhere. Cissé's father told the Fatu Network that he was waiting for the results of an autopsy but raised his doubts of the official account. Gambia's Ministry of Foreign Affairs issued a statement urging the U.S. government to conduct transparent, credible and objective investigation on the matter. For iAfrica News, I am Julden Jai Suare.
And from the report there, we stay with matters of the death of George Floyd because civil rights activists and police were all in attendance of the press briefing staged by the Floyd's family with legal team to express their solidarity over the death of George Floyd. According to the Fort Bend Memorial and Planning Center, Floyd will be buried in Houston next to his mother. The killing of the 46-year-old black American sparked protests in the United States and across the world amidst the police violence on the African Americans. Here's more details of that.
The killing of the 46-year-old black American sparked protests in the United States and across the world amidst police violence on African Americans. Hundreds of mourners gathered at the public viewing of George Floyd's casket at the Fountain of Praise Church in Houston on Monday to pay their last respect. Floyd's family members during the public view of his casket shared their feelings with mourners who came to support them in their grief period. Floyd's brother Felanius Floyd said Floyd was a role model to him and many in the family.
George, we know, of course, y'all would know, but to give you one thing about him again, he's a family man, great man. He stands for the definition of a man because we didn't have no father figure growing up. And my brother, all the steps he did as a human being, as a young teenager, and now to me as I'm older and understood that the stuff he was doing was teaching us lessons.
Attorney Ben Crump, during the visitation ceremony, announced that the murderer of Floyd, Derek Chauvin's bail has been elevated to an increasing amount of $1.5 million.
We talked to the district attorney's office and they notified us that they had asked for an increase in the bail amount for Officer Derek Chauvin. And I'm proud to tell PJ and Rodney, his family here at this moment, that the bail was increased to $1.5 million to keep the murderer.
Ben Crump further seeks for the immediate drop of charges from all protesters that have been arrested. Meanwhile, the protests over police brutality and racism continued over the weekend with a promising crowd in Washington, D.C. and other cities in the U.S. For iAfrica TV News, Sohna Tunkara.
And that report there by Sona Tunkra will now take us to the break, and we will be back right after the break. Stay with us. You're watching The World Today on Africa TV. We'll be back soon. Welcome back. You are watching the World Today News, Africa TV, and now to the rest of the stories. Now, North Korea has today announced that it will cut all communication lines with South Korea, including a direct line between leaders of the two countries. The announcement was made via a public broadcaster earlier Tuesday after accusing South Korea of sending leaflets into North Korea, which are critical of the communist government. Last week, the sister of the North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, Kim Jong-un, warned South Korea against sending leaflets, which she said violate the peace agreement signed during the 2018 Pyongyang summit between Kim Jong-un and the South Korean President Moon Jae-in. Here is more of that.
남조선 당국은 저들의 정대한 책임을 노절한 간판을 들고 어쩔 수 없다는 듯 회피하면서
All communication lines between the North and South are to be cut off. The Korean Central News Agency reports as follows. The South Korean authorities have connived with hostile acts against our republic by terrible people and have tried to make bad excuses, evading their responsibility. This has driven inter-Korean relations to a catastrophe. On June 8, during the review meeting of departments dealing with relations with the South, Kim Yong-chol, Vice Chairman of the Central Committee of the Workers' Party of Korea, and Kim Yo-jong, First Vice Department Director of the Central Committee of the Workers' Party of Korea, emphasized that this work should be completely treated like working with an enemy. They discussed plans for working against the enemy to make those who betray us and who are undesirable pay for their crimes. And then to begin with, they instructed to cut all the methods of communication between the North and the South. Therefore, from 300 GMT on June 9, 2020, our relevant authorities South, including the Joint Liaison Office, the military communication lines on the East Sea and West Sea, the Trial North-South contact line, and the hotline between the Central Committee of the Workers' Party of Korea and the Blue House.
North Korea suspends all communications with South Korea. From the report, we come back home because, of course, the 71st National Situation Report of the coronavirus has confirmed 2 additional cases of the virus in the Gambia on Monday, bringing the total number of cases since March to 28. Of these cases, one emanated from NBR. Both victims were in quarantine on account of a recent travel history. Lamin Sani has more of that in this report.
The coronavirus pandemic has taken another jump on the 8th June 2020 when 2 new cases were reported by the Ministry of Health. This current surge of cases totaled the number of cases to 28 since its eruption into the source of the nation on March 17th.
Currently, there are 2 new laboratory confirmed cases of COVID-19 registered, bringing to the total of COVID-19 cases confirmed in the country to 28.
Dr. Ahmadu Lamin Samate, Minister of Health, said both victims were in quarantine of having a recent travel history within the sub-region. Their situation was reported by neighbors who have accessibility to the hotline 1025.
One of these cases is the first confirmed one from the North Bank West region. Both were in quarantine, having a recent travel history to locations with ongoing community transmission. Their respective neighbors reported them to the COVID-19 response team to the 1025 hotline.
The country currently has 125 people on quarantine with a total testing of 1,970. Of these, 28 are positive. Completed quarantine with 789 contacts traced, while 310 people completed follow-ups. Reporting for Africa News, I'm Lamin Sane.
The number of confirmed coronavirus cases in the Gambia now reached 28 after a confirmation of 2 cases on Monday. Now, finally, the Congolese refugee residing in Uganda is facing challenges as his business has greatly deteriorated during the lockdown due to the coronavirus global pandemic. Jesuit Refugee Service came to his aid and other vulnerable groups by providing foods, medical care, and cash handouts. Uganda currently has over 600 confirmed cases of the coronavirus. Let's have more details of that in this report.
Nemaya Chidagula is a Congolese refugee who's lived in Uganda for over a decade. He built a small soap-making business, but the coronavirus lockdown has taken away his customers. Now he's going hungry and has come to collect food vouchers for his family.
For sure, it's been hard because we are spending some of the day without getting any food. Maybe even for now we have reduced how to eat. Maybe we don't eat again lunch. Yeah, only in the evening, even morning, it's hard.
This refugee-led organization is supporting those Nemaya with basic food, medical care, and cash handouts. Around 80,000 urban refugees live in Kampala and are allowed to work according to the country's refugee policy. Many of these refugees run small businesses in Kampala, but they've not been able to work during the lockdown. And as the economy opens up, their businesses may not pick up fast enough, making it hard for them to afford basic needs like food and rent. 100 refugees are provided with assistance at this agency every day.
What we do is, after assessing and really finding out, okay, they were not able to, then we shall provide them with a voucher. And this voucher allows them to access this food in the shops that provide this food assistance. So they are contracted service providers with whom we deal with.
In Uganda, refugees who live outside settlements are expected to be self-reliant and do not receive humanitarian assistance. Philemon Basereka, a Congolese pastor whose church also supports refugees, says they have been overwhelmed by the demand during the pandemic.
No matter which help that you have, they communicate to each other and say that there is help somewhere. So you can call 10 people and you're going to see 1,000 refugees come and do a tent, want you to support.
Government has distributed food to the urban poor, including refugees, but many missed out. The UNHCR has been providing cash assistance during this lockdown, but the agency says it needs an additional $5.1 million to meet their urgent needs for the next 3 months. In the meantime, Nemaya and many other refugees living in Kampala hope life will soon return to the way it was before COVID-19.
The impact of COVID-19 continues to hit different people around the world. Well, from that report, we will now, of course, bring this news bulletin to an end. But for more details on this and other stories, you can also look on our website on africa.tv. Once again, many thanks for the pleasure of your company. Thanks for watching and bye for now.
ñu leen di nuyu ku nekk sa tur ak sa sant néew bu bàyyeekoo TRRC Truth Reconciliation and Reparations Commission ngir fàttali leen rek TRRC moom leen jox doole sàkku dëgg ak taxawal dëgg si wàllum jafe-jafe not ak toroxtaane yi tegoon nit ñi bàyyeekoo July 1994 ba January 2017 si wàllum liggéey ngir sàkku dëgg nag fokk ñu am képp ku nga xamante ne nii bokkoon na si nit ñu nga xamante ne leen notoon toroxal leen teg leen ay ñaawteef ñu leen di ñaan ngeen ñoo joxe seen statement yi waaye ñu leen di wax tamit ne képp ku nga xamante ne ni bëgg ngaa ñoo joxe sa kàddu waaye bëgguloo feeñ si télé wala si caméra wala si nit ñu bari loolu yépp ne la ko mën a rafetal ñu defal la ko si secret kon ñu leen di ñaan yéen ñëpp képp ku nga xamante ni jànko wante nga toroxtande wala ñaawteef bu bàyyee ko boppu jamono ñu lay ñaan nga ñoo joxe sa statement xamante ne ni bëgg ngaa ñoo joxe sa statement callal Victim Support Unit si 770-4988 770-4988 8888.